siege of Maegor's Holdfast dragged on with no sign of the king or his brother backing down. Whatever the truth behind the reasons and motivations of Sir Marsden when he seized Lord Rowan, whether they be good or bad, Waters did as the king had commanded. Lord Graceford, commander of the city watch, was seized by the king's guard and dragged away to the very dungeons he himself had ruled when he awoke that day. Lord Rowan's chains were removed, and all his knights and serving men were brought up from the dungeon into the sunlight. It did not pose necessary to subject the Lord Confessor, who had taken great pleasure in the brutalizing of the prisoners, to break. The sight of all the instruments was all that it took to give up the information and the names of the other conspirators. Amongst those names was the late Sir Armory Peake, and Sir Marvin Flowers of the Kingsguard, Tassario the Tiger, Septon Bernard, Sir Garth Long, Sir Victor Risley, and Sir Lucas Laigard of the Goldcloaks, were 6 of the 7 captains of the city gates, and even 3 of the Queen's ladies. Not all surrendered peacefully. A short, savage battle was fought at the Gate of Gods, when men came for Lucas Laigard, leaving 9 dead, amongst them Laigard himself. 3 of the accused captains fled before they could be taken, with a dozen of their men. Tassario the Tiger chose to flee as well, but was taken in a dockside tavern near the river gate as he was negotiating with the captain of an Ibbenese whaler for passage to the port of Ibben in the north of Essos on the Shivering Sea. Sir Marsden chose to confront Mervyn Flowers himself. "We are, the both of us, bastards, sworn brothers beside," he was heard to tell Sir Brenyard Ruskin, when told of Graceford's accusations. Sir Marvin said, "You will be wanting my steel," drawing his long sword from its sheath and offering its hilt to Marsden Waters. Yet, as Sir Marsden grasped it, Sir Mervyn drew a dagger with his other hand and plunged it into Waters' belly. Flowers got no farther than the stables, where a drunken man-at-arms and 2 young stable boys found him saddling a courser. He killed them, but all the noise brought others running, and the bastard knight was finally overwhelmed and beaten to death, still clad in his white cloak that he had shamed. His Lord Commander, Sir Marsden Waters, did not long outlive him. He was found in the White Sword Tower in a pool of his own blood, and carried to Grand Maester Munkin, who examined him and pronounced the wound mortal. Though Munkin sewed him up as best as he could and gave him milk with the poppy, Waters expired the same night. Lord Graceford had named Sir Marsden as one of the conspirators as well, insisting that the bloody turncoat had been well in on it from the start, a charge Waters was no longer able to dispute. The rest of the plotters were consigned to the black cells to await trial. Some protested their innocence, while others claimed, as Sir Marsden had, they had acted from the honest belief that Thaddeus Rowan, the Lycene, were traitors. A few proved more forthcoming, however. Sir Garth Long was the most voluble, declaring loudly that Aegon III was weakling, unfit to hold a sword, much less sit the Iron Throne. Septon Bernard argued, from his faith, that the Lyceni and their queer gods had no place in the 7 kingdoms. It was always intended that Lady Lara should die together with her brothers, he said, so Viserys could take a proper Westerosi wife. The frankest of the plotters was Tassario the Thumb. He had done it for gold, girls and vengeance, he said. Rogerio Roger had banned him from the Mermaid for striking one of his whores, so he had demanded the brothel and Roger's manhood for his price, and these things had been promised to him. But when his inquisitors asked him who made the promise, Tassario gave no answer but a grin that turned into a grimace, and then a scream. When he was asked again under torture, the first name he would give was that of Marsden Waters, but on further questioning he named George Graceford, and still later Mervyn Flowers. Mushroom tells us the tiger was on the point of giving 4th name, maybe perhaps a true name, when he died. One name was never mentioned though it hung over the Red Keep like a cloud. In the testimony of Mushroom, the fool says plainly what few dared to say at the time, that there surely must have been another conspirator, lord and master of the rest, the man who set all of this in motion from afar, using the others as his cat-paws. The player in the shadows, Mushroom calls him. Graceford was cruel, but not clever. Long had courage, but was not cunning. Risley was a sot. Bernard a pious fool. The Thumb a bloody and violent. And the Kingsguard were used to obeying commands and not giving them. Lucas Laigard loved swaggering about in his gold cloak and could drink and fight with the best of them, but he was no plotter. All of them had ties to one man, however, Unwin Peake, Lord of Starpike, Lord of Dunstonbury, Lord of Whitegrove, and former Hand of the King. No doubt others entertained the same suspicion once the plot to kill the king had been unmasked. Several of the other traitors had blood ties to the former Hand, whilst others owed him their positions. Nor was Peake a stranger to conspiracy. having once planned to murder the 2 dragon riders under the sign of the Bloody Caltrops. But Peake had been a Starpike during the whole secret siege, and none of his supposed captors ever spoke his name, so his involvement remains unproven then, as it also does now.